Hey guys, what's up? What's going on? This is Mike filling in for Joe in his usual weekly intro spot. I'll keep it quick like Joe always does. You can join our Facebook group, How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The Facebook group. We have movie discussions, we share movie memes, we share movie trailers, movie news, pretty much everything that has to do with movies. You can also check out our merch store, howmanyfingerspodcast.bigcartel.com. It's really the best way that you can support the podcast, and we've got some shirts there, some koozies, and some stickers, and all three in a package deal for $11.99. Pretty great deal if you ask me. Hey, make sure you check out a review of The Meg last week with Sean Henry, and stay tuned for our review of Bo Burnham's 8th Grade next week with Alex Branchick. But right now, here's our review of Christopher Robin. There's no guest this week, but it's a pretty great review of a very strange children's movie. Enjoy. Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Joe.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The podcast. And this week, we're reviewing Christopher Robin.
Oh, bother.
Welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? Featuring two guys getting tool-timed with Tim Allen and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
And that came to us from Brian Sullivan on Facebook. Thank you for that, Brian. Synonym.
That brightened my day. And if you have synonym suggestions, you can suggest those on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, email, and Gmail. Both of those. But this week we are drinking...
What'd you get for us, Mike?
From the corpse of Winnie the Pooh. We've got our red How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The podcast koozies here. And inside of it, a goldenrod colored can. I know that that's the color of Pooh because I used to draw him all the time as a little child with crayons. But this is Berliner Weiss German-style sour wheat ale from White Birch Brewing. They're a brewery from Hooksett, New Hampshire. I see them around here all the time, though. For like cheap, like local craft beer prices.
Oh man, I forgot how these taste, the Weiss beers. It's I feel like every beer we've opened today is just exploding. It's very sour. Yeah, German style sour wheat ale. For some reason, like the goldenrod can wanted it to be like kind of like this warm kind of lager. Yeah. But instead I was like, whoa. Does not look
Wowie. Yeah, when I wasn't actually thinking about it being a sour beer. German-style sour wheat ale.
But yeah.
That's all right.
If you are watching on video, this is
like
a cute,
little Pooh.
This is a cute combo. You can go get your red How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? Koozie or any of the 9 other colors? 11 other colors?
I think we have 10 total, yeah.
Okay, so 9 other colors. And make your own little Pooh Bear drink.
Yes, and those are at our Big Cartel web store. But yeah, of course, this week we are reviewing Christopher Robin, a strange movie. Joe, do you want to read the IMDb description and I'll give us some context for what we watched?
Oh boy, okay. So, a working class family man, Christopher Robert... Christopher Robert. Guys, I'm
Christopher Robert, get down here.
Please excuse me.
It's like when your mom is not mad enough to use the full name, so it's just first name
Christopher
and
Robert. I feel like I've been like living this week to like off center. Like I'm kind of like living to like the left of myself. Like everything I do is just like, and just I feel so absent minded. So please excuse me if I'm like that for this batch of episodes. Okay, let's give this IMDb description another shot.
Take 2 and go.
Line. A working class family man, Christopher Robin, encounters his childhood friend Winnie the Pooh, who helps him rediscover the joys of life.
Okay. All right. Well, Christopher Robert was directed by Mark Forster, who is a German-born film director who's previously directed quite the filmography: Monsters Ball, Finding Neverland, Stranger Than Fiction, The Kite Runner, Quantum of Solace, and World War Z. He was nominated for Academy Award for Best Picture. Well, the film was for Best Picture, and the Golden Globe for Best Directing. So that was actually him, and then Best Picture for Finding Neverland, which is like a surprisingly, I mean, we'll get into it, like similar theme. To
I know.
like this
It was
movie.
wasn't the writer also from Finding Neverland or something? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few writers here.
Okay.
So first we have Alex Ross Perry, who you would know from, he is an actor who's been in Tiny Furniture, and then he's also in Joshi. He's the like kind of nerdy guy who suggests that they play the board game in Joshi. And then he's done a little bit of other acting, but he's mostly done directing and writing. He directed and wrote Listen Up, Philip, Impolex, The Color Wheel, and Queen of Earth, which are all kind of low-budget indie movies. Queen of Earth did have like Elizabeth Moss and Catherine Waterston and a few bigger names in it. And let's see. And then we have Tom McCarthy, who we're familiar with as the director of Spotlight, Best Picture winner Spotlight, from our first season. And he has also wrote and directed The Station Agent, The Visitor, Win-Win, and The Cobbler, which I think we probably made fun of in the Spotlight episode.
Definitely.
And he's written $1 Million Arm, Up, and the upcoming Nutcracker in the Four Realms movie that'll be this holiday season. Then he's done quite a bit of acting as well. Meet the Parents, Good Night and Good Luck, Syriana, All the King's Men, Flags of Our Fathers, Michael Clayton. So if you like George Clooney movies, Jack Goes Boating, Duplicity, The Lovely Bones, and then we know him best as the reporter in the 5th season of The Wire.
Right.
He's in a pretty integral plot arc in The Wire. And then Alison Schroeder, who we're familiar with as a writer for Hidden Figures from 2 years ago, and Mean Girls 2 and Side Effects. So I think Alison Schroeder was brought on to punch up the script or clean up the script at a certain point after this, but it was Alex Ross Perry's script originally.
Yeah, I think Tom McCarthy was brought on to
Also
punch it up. Yeah.
And the only other real thing I know to have here is that Johan Johansson was hired to score the film shortly before his death on February 9th, 2018. So the film is dedicated to his memory. And then Klaus Badelt was announced as taking over composing duties for Johansson, but the score was ultimately written by Jeff Sinelli and John Brion. In one of our squad chats, one of our friends, former guest Nick, was saying that he knows one of these guys and that they basically had like 12 days to put this score together.
Really?
So I don't know if it was something where like, I mean, they were probably rushing because Johann dies, and then Klaus, who I think is part of that whole like Hans Zimmer school of like they all kind of like work to get like Harry Gregson Williams, all them.
And did you know the Johann? I was about to ask. Sorry. Do you want to continue or?
Well, just I'm assuming that Klaus probably at some point had to drop out for some reason. And
right.
They're like, all right, we have 12 days to make this score.
But
it doesn't really show. I have to give them credit. I mean, it's not a great score, and you have a lot of the themes already built in with Winnie the Pooh and stuff like that. But anyway, go on.
I was about to say, I feel like it wasn't available when he first died, but I was about to say, do you know what the cause of death for Johan Johansson was?
I haven't looked into it.
So I just Googled it, and it said death, Johan Johansson died in Berlin on the 9th of February 2018 at the age of 48. The cause of death was an accidental overdose of cocaine combined with medication.
Oh,
that really sucks. Damn.
Yeah.
Drugs are scary, especially when you're on medication.
Well, I mean, cocaine is probably not a good idea at 48. I mean, not a good idea ever, but
a 48-year-old
heart is not meant for that kind of thing.
Yeah. Why am I not surprised Johan Johansson? I mean, it's why am I not surprised that he's doing cocaine? It's those very like artistic, like musically inclined people that I feel like find themselves
eccentrics.
That stinks. I wonder if he like died in his sleep or if that was like sudden kind of thing. I don't know. That's scary though.
Well, now to set the tone for Christopher Robin.
Yeah, really.
Which is surprisingly appropriate.
Everything
for
but drug overdose in this movie.
Tone of this movie. Oh my god. I mean, so like I remember seeing the trailer for this. I think the trailer came out in like May or March or something like that. It's been out for a couple months. And like even in the trailer, the tone is just like dull and drab and dreary, and there's like barely any color, and like all like the stuffed animals like look like beaten down and like faded in color, and
to some extent
it's just strange.
Yeah. I mean, the character, I don't know what exactly you would call them, but basically, part of me was like, I liked, like, if somebody was like, man, like, okay, what if we made a Winnie the Pooh movie, but like all of like the characters kind of looked like of the era, kind of like like we make some like Velveteen Rabbit ass looking, characters, and they're faded, obviously. In which, by the way, if you're on the IMDb page or you look at the poster or even in the trailer, they're kind of touching it up. Like the tone, like these are just fully colored stuffed animals on this poster, and with all the character design is what I was trying to think of before. But when you go into the movie, they're just so washed out.
Yeah.
The movie too,
and dirty, and like it's almost like too realistic at times. Like there's like honey sticking to like Pooh's like thing, and like that's almost too much detail, because I just kept thinking like, man, he's got to be so crusty and nasty if honey is all he eats all the time.
They're also horrifying.
Yeah,
it's something. Pooh especially. I think the rest of them were kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, it's whatever. But there's something specifically, or there's something just individually horrifying about Pooh. And I think it's a combination of like the kind of photorealism and like the tiny mouth. The tiny mouth really sets off some sort of like fear, like he should be like co-starring with like Annabelle or some shit. Like, like he looks like, was there a scene in it where like the toys came alive? Because that's what Pooh looks like. Yeah. It's like,
it's like it the whole like look and feel of it looks like almost like a well done fan film. Like if somebody had been like, let's make like a gritty version of Winnie the Pooh, like set like 20 years later. Christopher Robin is fucking depressed as shit, and like, Pooh's not so great himself, and like it's a weird concept for an actual kids movie that Disney's gonna put out. Like it reminds me of like Logan, where like like Logan, it's like it's detached from sort of the reality that we've sort of come to know, and in that way it was almost just kind of like this one-off cool thing, and like but this is still trying to tie it into like the actual Pooh universe, and it's just it's weird. It's so weird.
The whole thing is weird. It almost reminds me of like there's so much of just fucking Ewan McGregor, who has to kind of just walk around by himself and talk out loud to himself, kind of. And that's like really, it gets so corny that it feels like a weird like one-man play. And there's also elements that make it feel like, it reminded me a lot of, I kind of liked it when I read it, but the more that I thought about it, like it kind of soured in my mind. I never saw it like in a play, but the Dog Sees God, which is like the Peanuts characters grown up, and they try to make it like gritty and it's like very like, oh, what if all the Peanuts characters were on drugs and they were doing cocaine and like Snoopy's dead, man, and like it just reminded me of that. In like I think God or Dog Sees God. I don't actually know. This could just be like offensive to whoever wrote it, but I feel like it was written by like a college student, and like drama kids were just drawn to it just because it was like gritty or something, and it was like, oh, like I know the source material from.
Well, there's like I have a bunch of them over on my shelf over there, the Fables comic book series, which is actually pretty good. I think because it's not like they're characters that we know cues that what they look like, but like obviously the guy's drawing with his own art style, so it's not like a perversion of like Homer Simpson or something that we're very familiar with how these characters look. And it is like, oh, like, they're dealing with drugs and sex and cheating and just, being broke and living in New York City and shit like that. Kind of works in that, but it's a weird tone to take for a movie that's not like, I think this could almost work if like you were willing to fully commit to it. Like if you're willing to like Logan did, to be like, this is going to be a hard R movie, and we're going to do a lot of R-rated shit in here. Obviously, that would never. That's why I think it feels like a fan film. Like I can imagine a really awesome fan film, obviously being made without Disney's permission of this, but this is caught in between like two concepts that maybe could have worked.
Well, that's what I was. I don't even know. Whether I said this on air or off air, kind of. I was like, I don't know who this movie is for.
Oh, no.
Because, again, we could have, like, when it, like, opened and there's a lot of, like, weird, like, you kind of have, like, the, like, Pooh, like, Tree of Life-esque scenes, like, in the beginning.
It literally is. It's he's, like, touching, like, the thistles.
Everything's very Tree of Life-esque in the beginning.
It's all golden hour shots.
And then we go into kind of, like, a more mature, or I don't know if this happens before, but, like, Christopher Robin's, like, past or whatever, or like just like a montage of him growing up or whatever. And there's a lot of adult kind of scenes in there with war or death of a parent or whatever. And I was just kind of like, maybe this isn't like a kid's movie, and maybe they're gonna try to do something.
Like, especially the first half of it. It opens on like a sadly shot like goodbye party. They're all saying goodbye. That's how you start the Winnie the Pooh movie, is Winnie the Pooh saying goodbye to Christopher Robin. And then it's a boy who doesn't want to go to boarding school going to boarding school, and he's at this place where they're like slapping the desk because he's drawing like his friends that he misses. Like, then we have like the father that we barely know dies just to like make us feel more bad for this like tragic character at this point. And then like everything is almost like a gross stereotype of like British weather, where it's just foggy and rainy, and like at the very best it's like sunny through clouds. Like there's never like just a completely blue sky anywhere. And then we have a fucking war scene in this movie. Like Christopher Robin, gets married and then goes off to war. And we have a scene where Christopher Robin yells into like the comms, like, "Where are my reinforcements?" In a Winnie the Pooh movie. Like, I don't know like how you're writing the script for this movie and you don't like come across that part and be like, maybe we've gone too far for our target audience. Like, again, like in like a gritty version where you're like, Christopher Robin was a real guy who had to grow up at some point. Right. And the reality of the world he was living in is that we were, entrenched in this world war, and a lot of people got sent off to fight, and it wasn't pretty. If you're going to make that gritty movie, that's kind of cool. But if you're going to try to make this like kids movie, like, I don't know.
Right. Where we have that, and we have the beginning, which I'm kind of like, all right, I'm not really into this. I don't even know if I liked Winnie the Pooh as a kid. I can't really remember. But I was just like, maybe I can appreciate this for what it is or whatever. But then by the kind of... I don't know exactly when in the movie Pooh and Ewan McGregor kind of like reconnect in like London or whatever. But then all of a sudden it's just kind of like silly, and it's just kind of like, oh, it's like Pooh's big day in the city kind of, and I don't know.
I feel like they didn't even fully commit to that either. Like it was
it is. Like, it's so caught in between everything that it's
That's like,
but it's even like the beginning that's very sad. They don't even completely commit to it being that sad. Like it was devoid of like emotion, like the entire time. It was just kind of like, I guess the dad died, or like the goodbye party. Like Christopher Robin's like just the perfect boy who has like an incredible emotional maturity, who's just kind of like comforting his stuffed animals. Kind of, it was just like very like. His stuffed animals weren't giving him guidance really as much as... It was very strange. I had no idea what they were trying to do this entire movie. I don't know.
It's... And like, I feel like I've talked a lot on this podcast about kids' movies and the way that studios approach them. And I think a lot of times studios go the opposite direction, where they make something too light and happy, and there's no conflict, and there's no drama. And it's like, kids can handle... some of that, but this movie has the opposite problem, where I don't think it really inserts any joy into this movie until like certain scenes, maybe towards the end, where it kind of feels like it maybe hits its stride, but it takes so long to get there. I mean, like I don't want to see a British period piece. Do kids want to see a British period piece either? Like, why did this have to be in like post-war Britain? Like, why couldn't this be in, like modern day Britain or something like that? Like, if you're going to like do a live action Pooh movie, like, is anyone really going to complain if it's like Pooh in like the modern day city? Because that was like some of the joy of this movie, was like the animals interacting with like stuff in the city and being confused about what stuff was, and them kind of bringing these like inflated ideals that they have from their like perfect 100-acre forest to the big city where like life is a little bit more complicated, and like sort of the contrast between those two things was funny. And that still works in, you know, like a modern day thing. And I feel like there's a lot more funny stuff that could be happening with like, you know, phones and faster cars and other stuff.
The ideal version of this movie has been made, and it's called Paddington. And it's a phenomenon, and it's a success, and it's a fantastic movie. And the second one is even better.
Is Paddington, like, where does he come from?
He...
Is it like come to life or something, or is he an actual bear?
Yeah. Well, he's like a bear that talks, that it's just kind of like, like he was like a part of the specific, maybe, oh man, I'm really fuzzy on the details. I want to say that there's some sort of like explorer adventurer that taught like a family of bears how to talk or whatever, and then the parents die or whatever, so Paddington like comes over here like in search of like a new family and gets kind of brought into this family, and the dad doesn't want him and the mom does, you know, and it's just, and it's very cute, and it is in like modern day like London, I'm pretty sure, and again, like he gets into some shenanigans, and like it's very cute. And I don't know. Oh, that's another thing, is I think the studio that did Paddington, they first released like a trailer, and again, I think they made him look too photorealistic, and everyone got like a little frightened by that. So maybe 3 months later, they re-released something where they kind of like reversed like the realism and made him just look
a little more cartoony,
like super cute. Yes, so it went from scary to really cute, kind of. And I don't know why Disney did not take notes on that, kind of. Like they had to have seen that whole thing, and I don't know.
Well, again, like everything's technically very well done in this. Like the shots do actually.
Looks cool. He looks great.
When Pooh's like stuffed animal hand is doing the Tree of Life shot through the thistle fields, but like, I don't know. Was that the best direction for a movie like this? I feel like it's like they also have like the opposite problem that like I had with Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, where like,
did you see that?
No.
Oh, okay.
But like looking at the source material, it is this kind of like, you know, the Christopher Van Allsburg's books are kind of like dull, and they're a little drab and dreary, and it's this kind of like quirkiness, and it's this weird uneasy feeling mixed with, you know, adventure and stuff like that makes them work and interesting to kids. And then Jumanji was just like, oh, let's make it funny and cute and all this stuff and make it a blockbuster. And then like this, like the Christopher Robin, or sorry, the Pooh, like you know, the comics, not the comics, the animated series, the movies, and like some of the books, like they do have a little bit of that like weirdness to them, you know? Like there's a lot of stuff that's like a blustery day, and like you know, it is kind of bad weather, and things are just a little, you know, unsettling going on there. But like this, it went too far with that. Like it took that and was like, all right, let's make like adults feel weird about themselves watching this movie. Like it just like bummed me out to watch this movie.
Yeah, and the thing is that I said there is like an ideal version of this movie, and if you want to go to the other side where you want to watch something that's sad but sentimental and a little depressing, I think like I never saw it, but I've heard like pretty good things about like the 2017 Goodbye Christopher Robin or whatever, which is like a dramatized like biographical film, and it's got like Donald Gleason and Margot Robbie and Kelly MacDonald.
He's playing is it A.A. Milne or Charles A. Milne? Who's the guy who wrote Winnie the Pooh?
Yeah, the A.A. Milne.
Yeah,
and then his son is Christopher Robin.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
And that's like another fucking really confusing thing, is that what's it called? It was like so confusing. I kind of had to like look it up online, because I was going to be like, oh, is this in a universe where like the Winnie the Pooh books don't exist, kind of? It was just like very strange. I was like, I kept waiting for that to kind of like weave itself in, and then somebody posted something online about like, oh, well, like his name's not actually Christopher Robin. His name's like, his first name's Christopher and his last name's Robin. So it's Pooh calling him by his like first and last name all the time. It's very where instead of like Christopher Robin, the original Christopher Robin, who is the A.A. Mills son or whatever. So that was like just another weird kind of like they're skewing the details to kind of make it work, but there were just so many other things that they could have done to make that work or make this movie work.
I'm also like, does Haley Atwell, does she only act in period pieces?
I know, yeah.
Like there's like this, and then she has so many things on her filmography that are related to the Marvel Universe because she was in the first Captain America, and then she's got all the cameos since then. She's in like video games, and then she was in like the 2 TV series they did. The one was, I think, based on her character. I forget what it's called. Agent Carter. She's Peggy Carter, right? And then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
So she did most of her acting like playing this character from that period piece movie. And then like all of her like upcoming movies are like set in like the 18th century, the 19th century, the early 20th century, like
I believe
turn of the century.
Yeah.
Like I can't picture her with like modern hair or like an outfit.
Same.
I know I've seen it because she's in one of my favorite Black Mirror episodes, the one with Domhnall Gleeson, where they make like the replacement for an ex-lover. And she's great in that. But yeah, I feel like she's been like severely pigeonholed into I can only wear my hair in curlers.
Right, yeah.
And play these like period piece wives.
They just, I don't know. This movie also has like a problem with like how they distribute the screen time. We really don't see a lot of her or the daughter to the point where like sometimes I kind of forget that they exist.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I also like kind of don't I feel like they maybe didn't do enough to establish like how like he's comedically a terrible father. So like my favorite part is like he can't like, so the big thing is he has to work over the weekend to prepare like a project or whatever. He just has to be in the office, like he has to work the weekend or whatever. And his wife and daughter are going to the country house that he grew up in or whatever. And he can't fucking like, it doesn't seem like it takes that long to get to, really. Like he can't do like a Friday afternoon till like Saturday morning.
He doesn't even need to be in the office. He just needs to theorize about how to get this 20%.
Like his boss is golfing,
Like he's doing it on the train, and he couldn't do that at the countryside. Like,
but it's just so funny where like he's like, oh, my daughter means everything in the world to me, and like he can't spend like a fucking second with her. But then Pooh shows up and he's like, oh, let's get you home, kind of. Which I get. He's like this kind of poor defenseless bear, and he's stuck outside of his world or whatever. But then like he gets Pooh, and Pooh's going through like the portal or whatever. That's a whole other discussion. And then Christopher Robin's like, oh, what the fuck? I'll spend like the rest of the day inside this like portal
that,
or whatever.
Like that really sad scene where like Pooh's going through the portal and then he just sits there and he's like, wherever I'm going somewhere, I wait for it to find me or whatever. And he's just like sitting there in the tree, and it's like the saddest, like almost like scary kind of scene, like him just in the shadows waiting, like with a red balloon.
With his like balloon, yeah. Pooh's like, it's portal time, dude. It's portal time, Pooh.
I'm so tired of this plot line of like, oh, I had this big family like weekend plan, but I've got to work through the weekend, and I've got to choose between like family and like work, and like, and I hate it because it's always paired with like this perfect wife who also happens to be a nagging and not understanding wife at the same time. Like, I don't like, it ends up sort of like villainizing that like wife character and making us like not feel any sympathy for her.
Oh my god,
like,
yeah.
Like, I mean, like, it's also like, I feel like they purposely give these characters like an inability to explain the situation. Like, I feel like in real life, you know, which this movie half the time tries to like get too deep into, and then the other half doesn't, like, it'd be a really simple conversation of like, oh, like, I have to decide which of my workers and friends, like, I have to lay off. Essentially. Right. Like, this is a pretty important thing that I have to do. The alternative is the company gets shut down and I don't have a job. Like, and then all these other people lose their jobs as well. Like, yeah, I would love to go to the countryside with you, but this obviously takes importance right now.
Right. And they also kind of try to. I don't know. It's
it works. That struggle works in movies where it's like a Wall Street executive dad who's like, oh, I've got to stay late at work to impress my boss to get ahead, or something like that. But it doesn't work when it's like, oh, this is my job or no job type scenario, as well as my job and like 20 other people's jobs or no jobs.
Right.
Like so how ununderstanding can you be to be like, oh, but you can't come for a weekend with us? Like, we're not important enough? Like, your life is happening right... Hello, your life is happening right in front of you. Like, shut up!
It does. It really does villainize. I don't know. So, did he just, like, grow up by woods that happened to have, like, a portal to, like, metaphysical...
I don't remember the origin story for Winnie the Pooh. I'm sure we'll get a prequel at some point.
Well, I'm sure. Well, I feel like the original idea is that like these were just stuffed animals, and it was like in his head, kind of. But
I was kind of waiting for a scene where like he'd be yelling at Pooh in public, and then we'd cut to the shot, and he's just yelling at nothing.
Nope, they're fucking real. It's a real, and everybody who accidentally catches a glance of a teddy bear
goes
like
crazy.
Looking at them is like, the fuck? Yeah. It's just, yeah. And that makes it like a little weirder. And I don't know, it's just like a strange universe. Do all stuffed... No, I guess not all stuffed animals, but then you're mixing like real animals in this portal with like the stuffed animals, and it was a little... Again, I don't really know.
I'm confused a little bit on like the... Yeah, it's true, because like the owl is not a stuffed animal. He's just an owl with feathers.
Right, there's another one too. Yeah, rabbit, yeah.
That's very strange. I wonder if those... Because those were... I guess because those are animals you would run into.
Right.
In the real world. I'd have to go back and look at the original books.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar. They might have just been real animals.
About it, in the animated series, they're drawn like real animals too. So I guess they must be in the books.
Right.
Like they could have, if there were, if it was made here, there could be like a deer character or something. There's some of the logic is weird in this, or I don't know. It's I'm not sure what the logic is supposed to be. Like the scene where like he's reading the note that his daughter left for him, and it's got the drawing that he drew all those years ago, and then he spills the honey.
Oh, I know. That was my biggest complaint about that movie. Out, and that later goes on to never be addressed again.
Then Pooh wakes up right after that, and I'm like,
did he?
Is that just weird editing, or did he like summon Pooh to wake up? And then like so have these like animals been in like a suspended state these like 30 years that he's been gone, or are they there the entire time missing Christopher Robin?
No, I think they do have a montage of Pooh visiting like the portal every day, and their branches start to grow over it or whatever, just to see if like Christopher Robin comes out or whatever. I
don't remember that montage. I remember him going. He woke up and then he couldn't find all his friends. He was going to everyone else's house.
They cut back and forth for a while, even after Christopher Robin. Well, it's like kind of during the scene where, Christopher Robin is. I think it's between the father's death and the stint in the war or whatever. There's a scene. There's like a montage scene of Pooh like visiting the portal every day, and then like on the last day, like Piglet like takes his hand and like kind of comforts him, and they like walk away from it together, kind of. So presumably they go on to live their lives, I think. And then I don't know. I think maybe there's something with the universe or the magic portal where like all of a sudden it happens to be foggy one day. They kind of try to fit in like this one like I've lost my friends. I don't really know, where does that ever go, kind of?
Well, the friends they're just in the stump hiding from what they think is like a heffalump. Like it's kind of like a that's something else I had a problem with, where like the first like quarter of this movie is like death, goodbye, war, separation, bad British weather, like all these like depressing things, and then they're afraid to like have real stakes for the like stuffed animal characters later in the movie. Like, because I remember there were times like in the like animated series, especially the animated movies, which I remember being pretty good for like kids movies.
Right.
You know, at least when I was younger. I haven't seen them since I was probably like 10 years old or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember like they would have like real sort of scary stakes in them where like they would get like actually lost in the woods, and like, you know, it would be like, you know, dark and like lightning out and raining, or one of them would get like stuck in a hole or something, kind of like Christopher Robin does.
Right.
But these ones are just like hiding from what is not actually, like, they didn't even actually bring any like heffalumps or woozles into it.
Mm-hmm.
Although they might actually be made up in the book. I can't remember about that either. But like, I don't know, just like make them actually lost. Like,
right.
You know, like rather than like having Christopher Robin in the hole when it rains, he finds like them in the hole and they're like shivering and cold, and he saves them or something. Because it's just such like a non-point. Like Pooh comes all the way to London to bring him back for like a scenario that's not even like a scenario that's sort of in their heads. You know, like
yeah.
they weren't actually lost, and like wouldn't that have been a more intriguing movie?
Yeah,
I felt like I think this movie is the weakest when it's just Christopher Robin and Pooh.
It is
like they're Pooh, like he's a little bit lovable, but he's sort of lovable in context of the other characters because of this friendship that he has with Christopher Robin. But he's not very fun to watch.
No,
like, he's kind of just like a quirky bear. There was a little bit of fun in the house when he was kind of causing chaos and stuff. But like them like walking around London, like I was just kind of getting annoyed at Pooh because they like make him suddenly very childish, where he's like, "Oh, but the balloon makes me very happy."
Yeah,
and then like them walking around the woods, I wanted to blow my fucking brains out because it's like this movie has like no set pieces or like real props or anything. Like you have like the 100-acre woods with everyone's houses, and they just sort of stop by them, but like there's nowhere that's like an actual like place they go. They're just wandering around the fucking woods. And then even when they find these characters, they're just in a nondescript stump.
Right.
And then like the whole, like I was so mad when they have the whole scene where he finally has the switch, and like the best they can do is like a bridge over water. Like,
yep,
cool. Like, we can find that fucking anywhere.
Yeah.
And then so he has the switch, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna like help, you know, Pooh find his friends. He finds their friends, and they won't come out of the hole because there's the heffalumps and woozles, and they think that he's the woozle. I did actually like Christopher Robin and Eeyore. I think Eeyore's easily the best part of this movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Voiced by Brad Garrett. I think he's an easier character to write for, and maybe just a very relatable character now. But they have that scene, and his whole thing is like, all right, well, I'm going to sort of play along. So let's like pretend that I'm defeating these heffalumps and woozles so they'll come out. And I'm like, they literally just have him like swinging at nothing and like hitting like his like briefcase. I'm like, you couldn't have like a cute scene of him like, you know, like making a fake like scarecrow or something. Then he's like, just give us some props or something in this movie. Like, you know, or have like Eeyore play along in that way, and like, you know, dress Eeyore up like a heffalump or a woozle or something. Like, there's just so much nothing in this movie. Like,
it is
just Christopher Robin swinging like an umbrella around,
and that's
what
a
makes
bunch
of leaves.
And that's what makes it seem
like what kid wants to watch that?
Right. It makes it. I did. Just going back to that, it's just like I felt like I was watching like Ewan McGregor in a very like bad one-man play.
It felt like it was like a low budget. Like, oh, we've got to save money. We can't have extras, and that's why like I don't know why. Like, it wasn't just all the characters coming to... Like, maybe there's something in 100 Acre Wood they're scared of, and they flee to go get Christopher Robin. And then they're all in the city. Because it was kind of fun when they were all in the city. I think it would have been more fun in a modern-day city. But even if you want to do the period piece thing, like... Then have them there. Not, like, on these, like, disgusting old moldy tennis courts. Or, like, just the blustery, like, 100 Acre Wood. Like, give us some... actual locations, you know, some actual extras, some life going on in the background of these scenes.
A tennis court scene is horrifying.
Oh yeah,
just
the tennis ball literally has no color in it. It's just completely washed out.
And like, you know, like her like kind of like shouting into the woods, and kind of like you can hear like a rustling or whatever. Like that's pretty scary. But yeah, but when she like throws the tennis ball, and then the tennis ball comes back, and then like the camera like menacingly like follows the like tennis ball.
The whole time I was watching this, I was like, you could totally do like a horror cut, cut of this movie.
They're gonna come out when DVD or like a high quality version of this comes out. We're definitely gonna see some on the internet. There's
also like I made note of this on the Facebook group, but like on the like even like the bright and shiny poster where they've like made like Pooh's like red and goldenrod pop, and like Piglet's this like vibrant pink, and it's got this like shiny gold Christopher Robin logo. The tagline is sooner or later, your past catches up with you.
Oh my god.
I kept waiting for it to be like Pooh dragging like Christopher Robin down into like a honey addiction or something. Because he really is like acting like an addict this whole movie. Like, oh, I gotta get my next honey fix.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. I don't know. This whole movie is fucking weird. I don't know. I mean, we've been talking about this the entire time, but also the colorist of this movie should just be shot. Like, it literally, like, especially like the first half, just like kind of looks like something you would do as like the first time you discover like, oh, like I can change the colors on Premiere Pro, kind of. It just looks like I don't know.
I mean, I think it's technically well done. It's just for another movie.
Sometimes there's just...
It looks exactly like every other British post-war period piece that I've ever seen.
But it almost, honestly, I thought it looked like there was just an extra haze. There was just like, there was something more that I was like, I don't even think I could watch this in another movie. It was just like when the color is distracting, like distractingly drab, like I feel like that's a problem. Like you're just like, don't like hide the details, like hide the stitching kind of thing. I don't know. It was just, it was weird. But yeah, I don't know. Upside, I definitely agree with like the fucking bridge and, you know, they're in like a stump or whatever. The initial set piece, I think, of like the portal, and you kind of have like these red kind of ferns and everything. Like, I thought they picked like a nice spot in whatever woods. It looks kind of nice. They don't spend very much time there. They have a few shots like of where it's portal time. Winnie the Pooh, sometimes, I mean, I was just so annoyed with this. Like, it goes beyond like child humor of just like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? I know Pooh's not actually doing that, but he's just fucking annoying.
Yeah.
And there's some of that. There's some of just, it's a grown man yelling at Pooh, like, which is also like, I don't know, like, who is that for? Like, that's weird. Like, you
that's
can
why,
see,
like, they should have brought, like, it was actually an enjoyable movie when Madeline was a big part of this movie. I think she's a strong child actor, and she interacts really well with the stuffed animals. Like,
when they have
it's
their
more
whole-
believable.
yeah.
I don't think Ewan McGregor is very believable when he's yelling at nothing. She seems to be somehow more believable with them. She's able to get into that like childlike state, obviously easier. But then like it's a nicer dynamic. Like there should have been almost like this tripod dynamic going on where you've got Christopher Robin who doesn't want to believe it, wants to get rid of like these animals, you know, put his past behind them, and you know, focus on his job and work and real life responsibilities. And then you've got Madeline who wants her dad to be, you know, more childlike and play with her and spend more time with her. And then these animals are sort of like the bridge to that. And that should have been taking place early on in the movie. Like the movie should have really opened up with old Christopher Robin, you know, and maybe they're going through the attic and she's showing him like the pictures and he's remembering. Like we shouldn't have seen the animals at first. It should have been like a reveal to see the characters later on. Like I don't know why you don't do
a
dramatic reveal with
Mm-hmm.
like some of these iconic characters,
right?
Especially if you're going to make them look sort of so dramatically different, and then you might have even been more okay with it. But then there should have been all three of them in one scene, you know, and it should have been like Christopher Robin, you know, trying to do whatever, and Madeline be like, oh, daddy, like, you know, the animals are cute, can we keep them or whatever? And he's like, no, we got to get rid of them. Maybe my boss is coming over and they can't be in the house. Like, could have had a ton of shenanigans like that. Like, you know, maybe the boss, his character was someone who's like, oh, we're coming to your house and we're gonna, you know, figure this problem out over the weekend. And the animals are all there and they're trying to hide them, and Madeline's, you know, trying to work with them or whatever. There's so many things that could have worked so much better.
And that even
this
makes
movie.
for like a better metaphor. Like there's no real metaphor for this.
I think that is the idea that they think they're getting across in this movie, that Christopher Robin has grown up. And that's why I think they make a lot of the choices about things being drab and dull and dreary because it's adult life. I think that's why like the tennis court that he used to play on as a kid is moldy and grown over, and like the tennis ball has no color left in it. Like I think they're trying to get that idea across, but that doesn't work if we don't see the contrast of like, you know, him refusing to take part in these things, you know, him at the cottage and she wants to play tennis or whatever, and he's like, no, I gotta work, you know, like if they just completely separate them and put them in different locations, like that doesn't really work to get that, you know, idea across on screen for me.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no, I do agree. When they go through the third act is bonkers. I don't know. I've heard like,
I think plot wise it's bonkers, but I think it's more fun.
It's working. Yeah, no, it's working with the daughter. I forget exactly the point I was
the
going
animals
to make,
interacting with like the, you know, the policemen and the taxi driver and stuff. That's kind of fun. Like there's a little bit of life going on in this like drab movie, you know.
But then the end is so fucking bizarre with the Christopher Robin comes in and he gives the big sales pitch that everybody in his department should have like an extended vacation because then people will buy luggage. And it was just
weird, like turn your workers into your customers.
Right. And it was very, I don't know. Christopher Robin invents the middle class. Or just like it's so weird. It's like I didn't know what to take from that. Or it was just kind of like, I guess we got to end this thing.
It's like it's like a message that wouldn't work back then when like worker exploitation was at like an all-time high.
Right.
And it's like it's also just like not a message that you can like sort of sell a CEO on, because it's like it's totally anti-capitalism.
Oh, right,
like,
yeah.
To be like, oh, like let's take a day off while our competitors aren't going to take a day off. Like, I don't know. There's like the idea sort of works if there's a way to ensure that you're going to start this revolution in the working class industry of being offered paid time off. It doesn't work if it's just, oh, like your 20 employees here are going to get paid time off and then you'll sell 20 suitcases. Like,
right. Yeah. I don't know.
It's very strange.
You want to wrap this up? You want to do some fingers?
Yeah, we can do that.
I don't know how far are we into it.
We're getting about closing time, 47 minutes.
Okay.
The only other thing I had is just a small, quick note. It's just that I feel like time is so strange in this movie. Like, it would just be day, and then then they would like clarify that it's actually morning, and then it would still be day, and then it's still day, and then it would be the next day. And there was like one scene at night where there was like when he's like trying to read to his daughter. It's like really like the only scene at night when like he finds Pooh and brings him back to the house. It's like sort of nighttime, and then they just go to bed. But it's like, what did he do that whole like morning that he was gone? Like,
yeah, a majority of this movie takes place over a single weekend, and it's
I had trouble figuring out what day of the weekend it was.
Right, when he wakes up and he's like, I'm late, and it's just kind of like, oh yeah, he's supposed to be in the office on Sunday morning, and he's like, it's Monday morning, and I was like, okay, I've totally lost track of time in this movie.
Yeah, because it's not even like golden hour when he like lays down with Pooh, and then he's completely asleep, and then he wakes up, and it's like, oh, it's morning, and then he's like, all right, then I've got to go back through the portal, take the train back to wherever, and like I'm like, how early did you wake up? Like, and how early did you go to? I have no idea what time it is ever in this movie.
Oh yeah, that's even. Are you talking about him coming back? Because even him taking Pooh back there is like a confusing kind of yeah. I don't know.
And it's very poorly established.
Yeah.
And he even like looks at his clock and it's not working. So like he has no idea what time it is. We have even less idea of what time it is.
I also
and he makes it there in time for the meeting. So like, how early does the sun rise in London? And like,
right.
How early did he get up? How long does it take to get there? I mean, I guess it can't be that long of a train ride.
But I was also like never convinced by like, why would he want I think all parents, especially Christopher Robin, who has a good heart, inherently want the best for their children. I don't he obviously had a miserable time at boarding school. Like, he was away from home when his dad died teachers are like fucking slapping his desk or whatever, and it's just kind of like, why does he want that for his daughter? I guess I didn't
think they got across, like, I feel like they picked
in the
wrong actor for this. I feel like to get the movie that they tried to make, at least, and not necessarily the movie that I think they should have made, you maybe need an actor who's like a little more hardened to life. Like, Ewan McGregor's too pleasant looking, so like I'm never like, oh, like, you know, that asshole father of hers. Like, he just looks too earnest and good, and like he's just a good, like morally good looking person.
Yeah,
you know?
he is also.
He doesn't look like someone who is hardened to life.
Right, and he's not. He's just, again, with the whole wife thing, he's more misunderstood than he is hardened. He's God. He'll work he'll stay however late and ignore like his family, who he cares most about, to try and save like his employees, who really, it's not his ass.
It's kind of like on the line. They're trying to do the transformation that happens perfectly in the movie Elf, played by the James Caan character, who like is this kind, like, he looks like a Wall Street guy who's like, working too hard. He's working at a publishing company in that one, though.
Right, yeah.
And he's a little bit misunderstood, but he's also like, we have this big account coming in. He's not going to lose his job if like, they don't. Maybe they might go to those lengths in that movie. I think they might say something about like, oh, if we don't get this, blah blah blah.
Right.
But still, like they definitely nail that better. And then it's like a more blissful thing when we see him turn joyous, because he is this kind of like hardened. He's always in a suit. He doesn't want to play snowballs. He doesn't want to do anything in that movie. And then when he's like singing along and he believes in like Santa at the end, it's like a really cool moment in that movie. Here, like when Christopher Robin starts like being like blissful, and like the turn in this movie is he looks at his reflection in the water and sees a little kid. Like, that's the most they're willing to do. Like a weak visual, like, they don't really do the script work for that. It's not a big turn to see, Ewan McGregor look joyful. Like, like we needed someone who was sort of more of a Scrooge. So that when he says, I believe in Christmas, we're like, oh, okay, that's nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Ewan McGregor, and I think equally to blame is the writing. Just because it's just like, what if the perfect guy had been through all the worst things and was still like this idealistic person who didn't see any other way because there was no other way. And like, he's the perfect guy stuck in the worst situation, and nothing really changes besides he goes to a board meeting and says, listen, I know you want to get rid of this entire department, but what if you give us all a paid vacation? And then like everyone claps.
What if you paid us to work less?
And then everyone claps, and it was like, what did he really learn? Like, I was just like, it didn't provide me with any sort of comfort.
It's a nice communist message. But
it was just. I don't know.
It wasn't really like a great message for kids, I thought, either. Like the moral of the story is kind of like, do nothing.
Yeah.
You fucking lazy Pooh Bear.
Oh, no. And that was the thing, too, was that I don't know if I said this yet either. There were aspects of Pooh that I did enjoy when they don't really, I don't know. They're trying to kind of like fit in this whole, like, do nothing. And my favorite thing to do is nothing, and do nothing, whatever. I don't know. But, they repeat a lot of the same shit during this movie. I'm so surprised I didn't remember it. But I like that Pooh is like this Zen character, and he's kind of like almost this Zen guidance for Ewan McGregor in like his stressed out life. But again, they don't really follow that. And then like Pooh has like all these other shades of just being childishly annoying, like not recognizing social cues, and like all these other things.
Like if they had made him a little bit more wise and kind of like, I mean, he could have been like a Yoda character, where like Yoda kind of talks about, there is no do or do not, and
he's still a goofy, funny character.
And he's doing stuff like when he's like eating like the fish sticks and stuff in the beginning. I think it could have worked a lot better.
But I don't think this movie had no idea what it wanted it to be, and that's the biggest problem.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see. On review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 71%. Jeez, that's high. based on 154 reviews with an average rating of 6.2 out of 10. The site's critical consensus reads, Christopher Robin may not equal A.A. Milne's stories or their animated Disney adaptations, but it should prove sweet enough for audiences seeking a little childhood magic.
Again, maybe there is I do think there is an audience out there that might just like it for what it is, like people who save up money every year just to go to Disney World again and again and again.
Who are fucking adult Disney fans.
Mm-hmm. I would
it's a
not
little fan service.
I would
for them,
not want
maybe.
to take my children to this.
I was in a theater full of kids and nobody was laughing.
Yep.
Like once or twice towards the end, but the beginning was just like I saw so many kids like get up to use the bathroom. Like that's how fucking bored they were.
I saw this in at the theater had to have like 5 people in it, and I saw it during kid hours too. And like this movie didn't do well. I think
It was actually a pre-packed theater when I saw it.
Oh, okay, really?
But yeah, you're right. It didn't do well.
I don't know. A lot of people kept predicting that this movie was going to be the movie that does well, like in their summer prediction list or whatever. And I was just like, yes, I see the social media stuff, but I feel like that's not going to translate. Like, this doesn't have like a kid appeal. This has it's a weird
niche
looking
adult appeal.
Right? Yeah. I was just like, I don't think people are going to turn out for this. It was just, I don't know.
It's not like they made like a Pooh comedy or a Pooh action movie. They made a Pooh British drama, which doesn't make a lot of money at the box office.
No,
so.
yeah.
Anyway, we got some Facebook comments. Let me pull those up.
You can join our Facebook group. How many fingers am I holding up?
Mostly memes and jokes. I don't know if any of these people actually saw the movie. CJ Thomas shared a gif of Ewan McGregor from Star Wars saying hello there. Then Joe shared the meme of him turning around the bunch and being like hello there, and then it's Pooh with 4 lightsabers being like General Kenobi. Nick says, did he fuck the bear? That's Nick Ocello, former guest. And then Connor McFadden, another Star Wars meme. It's the scene in the kitchen. That was actually one of the funnier scenes when he's trying to climb the shelves. And he's like, I think your ladder is broken.
Some of the Pooh delivery was really great. I laughed out loud when it's just funny because like when he's off screen and you can't see him kind of when like Ewan McGregor's like trying to kind of like he doesn't want to like deal with people like recognizing that he's carrying around a live action bear kind of just an animated stuffed animal when he's ordering the ticket and you just hear Pooh off screen and he's muffled and he's like, why is that man in a cage? I like really lost my shit. I don't know why that was so funny. It has nothing to do with like an outsider interpretation of it. It's just so strange.
In the meme, it's like the kitchen scene and Pooh says, it's over, Christopher Robin, I have the high ground.
I don't totally get that meme every time I see it because that's an Ewan McGregor line.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just reversed.
People can't remove Ewan McGregor from Star Wars.
Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah, so we can get into our ratings now. I can probably go first.
Go for it.
Yeah, so, I mean, like I've sort of elaborated, this is so dreadfully boring and dull, and it's drab, and I don't think it's like barely anything that a kid's movie should be. There was like no laughter in my theater. And I think the message is weak, and I think that's always an important part of a kid's movie is like, what's the message? And it doesn't even necessarily have to be like some incredible moralistic, PSA. But the message in this is just kind of like, when you're faced with a difficult situation, do nothing and then go on vacation and things will just work themselves out. And like, I don't think they really do the work to present it as like the Zen-like thing that they probably maybe thought it would be, like maybe if, the message was more of like, when things are in chaos, be calm and do nothing and let things work themselves out. Don't overthink stuff. But the message is literally just, dude, I like to do nothing. Nothing is the best thing to do.
Right.
So that's kind of weak. I think like Eeyore is really like the only stomachable part. I think there's a couple parts with Pooh, but for the most part, he starts to get annoying or just like depressing because he's, sad about Christopher Robin and sort of guilting him about that. And I think it's technically well shot and animated. Like, I think it does actually look really good just for a different movie altogether. It almost was like they like did their job like too well.
Right. Yeah.
They should have maybe just like left, some space to let the animators make it more comical maybe, rather than these like really detailed planned out shots of Pooh walking through the cornfields or whatever. It didn't fit. It was a horribly misplaced tone. So I'm gonna give it 1.5 fingers. It's pretty low down there for me. I was like miserable for the first half of it. It starts to redeem itself in the end, in terms of fun and like hijinks, but the plot is still pretty laughable and bad.
Yeah, definitely. Again, expounding kind of on like what I was saying earlier, where I was just kind of, I don't know, it's been a weird week for me, just super busy at work. And then I also like drank a lot last weekend for like a friend's birthday, and I kind of had one of those hangovers that, it lasts like a few hours, but like I can feel like the effects still like in me, where I
drink up.
You're right. that I do feel like I'm kind of living to the left of myself, kind of, or something, where I can't totally focus on anything or whatever. And I think like up until some point this week, we were thinking about seeing Black Klansman instead of this. And I was kind of excited for that, and then we changed it to Pooh, and I was just, or Christopher Robin.
I do think we'll do Black Klansman.
Oh no, yeah, we're still gonna do
point,
it.
So
but
look forward to that.
But it was also like I just saw like Sorry to Bother You, which is one of my favorite films this year, and that just didn't do good, and like that like disappeared out of theaters really quick. So I was just fucking sour when I saw this too, and I did not have a good time. There was nobody really in my theater. Again, dead silent. I think only I laughed at that cage part. Like nobody else laughed at any other point during this movie. It just wasn't a positive experience really. Again, this movie is, I think the color should be shot just for some scenes. Some scenes don't match a whole lot of what's going on, or just like the rest of the film. It was kind of just jagged in the way that it was cut. But yeah, I do like a lot of this. Again, I don't know if I really necessarily grew up with Winnie the Pooh. Maybe there are other children's cartoons or books that I was watching. Obviously, I'm familiar because I was a child at once. I feel like everybody's familiar with Winnie the Pooh. Man, what else was I going to say? I feel like I've covered everything. This is not as bad for children's movies as far as children's movies and bad movies go. This is not as bad as A Wrinkle in Time. I thought still the worst movie we've seen this year. But this puts up a good fight for being a bad movie. Yeah. I think I'm going to give it 1 finger because it's just... it's really up there. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this was like up for like a Razzie or something, you know?
It's just because it just seems ill-advised.
Yeah. I mean, like, I was surprised at that Rotten Tomatoes score. But I think critics go easy on children's movies.
Yeah. And it was average rating 6.2 out of 10. So that's just above. That's a lot of people giving it like 2.5s and 3s on our scale. Really.
Right. That's like a D.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad not a lot of people want to go see this because I don't think children should see this because it's just not a good movie.
It brings no joy, and that's what children's movies are meant to do. You know, like you're not supposed to put children through the ringer emotionally.
Right. I mean, even
you can do like I think what I was trying to get at before is like you can have like quirky parts of like kids movies, like you know, like Phantom Toll Booth and like The Brave Little Toaster and stuff like that. But they're still for the most part filled with fun and joy, and it makes it stomachable when you put these weird things that make kids feel uneasy. You know, but when you have a whole film that's just like, you know, let's make kids feel uneasy. Let's tear apart these two lifelong friends and then have them not really fit right back together at the end. And, you know, let's have Christopher Robin be boring and, you know, old and he doesn't have any wisdom for Pooh like he did as a kid, you know, like it's just, I don't know, what kid goes to that and finds any joy in that?
I'm so surprised that a person in this kind of universe grows up with these like kind of metaphysical magic stuffed animal creatures. And even if he's torn away from that and is thrown into boarding school or whatever, I'm so surprised that there's no point between that and when he's like going through a midlife crisis that he doesn't try to go back. And like I was so ready
they didn't
for
really
him
get across the idea that he was in a midlife crisis. You know, like this.
Right, yeah.
Like they put him through these awful ordeals, and it almost would have been better to show him as a like more broken man, not just he needs to hang out with his kids more. Like, yeah, we all do, but fucking capitalism. So
yeah. This movie has nothing to offer.
Yeah. Well, so 1 and 1.5, that's going to come to 1.25, which will round down to one finger overall for us here on the podcast. If you agree or disagree, leave a comment below on SoundCloud or YouTube. You can hit us up on Twitter, or most effectively, you can join the discussion already in progress on How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up, the Facebook group. We've got a post there for this, for all the other movies we're reviewing this week. And then all the movies we'll be reviewing in the future, obviously, there will be posts there. So that's about that. Everything else you can find at howmanyfingerspodcast.com. I guess the only other thing that I would like to individually plug is that we started a fantasy movie league for How Many Fingers the Podcast and for the group. So all the details are there on the Facebook group if you find that. It's basically like fantasy football for movies and the box office. I got really into it this week. It's pretty fun. You're basically trying to pick, what movie is going to do the best, but also is going to give you the most bang for your buck because you have like limited dollars to spend, FML bucks. So there's a lot of strategy that goes into it. It's pretty fun. It's just a cool way to stay invested in movies week to week and maybe learn a little bit more about the box office. So you can join that on the Facebook group. Look for the post that we have there with all the details. And that's about it. Anything else Joe will cover in the intro, and we got to go grab our guests because they just arrived perfectly on time for our next two episodes.
Very cool.
We've got, last week we've got The Meg with Sean Henry, and then next week we've got 8th Grade with Alex Branchik, both returning guests from some of our past favorite episodes. So we'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.
Later.